Okay, so this says sine of some angle is 0.45. We got to understand what that means. What does it say? Trig is just a bunch of ratios. Okay, for this triangle, there is some angle, x degrees, that gives me a ratio of 0.45. And because I'm talking sine, what ratio is that? That's the ratio of this side, the opposite, over this side, the hypotenuse. Okay? This ratio is 0.5. That's almost 0.5. It's almost half. That's what it means. This length over that length is half. Or this length is about half of that length. So my triangle looks a little off, but it's actually almost accurate. Okay? That's the understanding. That's what this means. Now, how do we find that angle? If you don't know the angle, what button are you pushing on your calculator? Yeah, it's called the inverse sine. So when you do push it on your calculator, those of you who have the display, it says that. Inverse sine, but the button is the second function button, okay? So this is on your quiz in about 15-20 minutes, so practice that. Get it. Tell me what the angle is. Everybody agree? Now, read the question. To the nearest degree, that would be... What did you say, sorry? 27, okay. All right. So, second function, everybody's calculator's in degrees? Mine's not. Mine's in radians. Every time I turn this thing on, I got to change it. Okay? We don't want radians. We want degrees. Second function sine of 0.45. Again, on your half of your calculators, you're going to go 0.45 second function sine. Okay? To the nearest degree, 27 degrees. We should all be getting. Okay? Mariah, where's your calculator? You got it? Okay. All right? Is it working? What's the next one? What's the angle here? Bryce, what do you got? Whoop. Good man. Okay? 81 degrees. Pretty steep triangle. But look, the ratio's pretty small, right? Remember, that's the ratio of adjacent over hypotenuse. If this adjacent's only 16% as long as the hypotenuse, that thing's better be pretty steep, right? 81 degrees? Yeah, looks reasonable. That's probably not even 81 degrees. I need to go even steeper, right? That's only 9 degrees off perpendicular, okay? Pretty steep triangle. If you're getting pretty good at this stuff, you don't even really need to do this. You can kind of gauge how big of an angle am I looking for. Why is that helpful? Because when you get your answer, you know if it's accurate or not, okay? Really, really good people with this will look at that and they'll get an answer at 22 degrees and go, that doesn't make any sense. That's a pretty small number here for cosine, okay? 10, 5.2. What's tangent? It is opposite over adjacent. If this is 5, that means my opposite is 5 times as big as my adjacent. Does that look like a pretty big angle? Let's find out. Inverse tangent of 5.2, not 5, 79 degrees. That's pretty steep, okay? If you're a roofer, you don't want to be doing that roof, okay? You're going to have to tie yourself on just to keep you up, right? Gravity is not going to help you. You can slide off and kill yourself. Okay, so yeah, we will be doing that, a couple of those on the quiz. Now, Calculate the measure of the angle. Yesterday we were finding one of the side lengths. Okay, this is the same stuff. You only got 3 ratios to use. Either it's sine, cosine, or tangent. How do you know which one to use? Look at the angle. Label your triangle. That's the hypotenuse. This is opposite the angle I'm talking about. So that must be the adjacent. Okay? Do I care about opposite here? I'm not asked to find it. I'm not given it. Which one has A and H? Yeah. Okay. Both of these guys have opposites in them, don't they? Okay. Cosine ratio. So the cosine of A is adjacent, 16, over hypotenuse, 34. Okay? How do I do that one? Is that different than what we just did here? No, it's not. The only difference is they put this as a decimal. This is just a ratio. That's a ratio too. Okay? So you can make that a decimal first if you like, but why wouldn't you just do this? Okay? Inverse cosine bracket, if it doesn't give you one already like mine, 16 divided by 34 bracket. What is the angle that corresponds with that ratio? To the nearest degree, 62 degrees. Okay? Could that be on the quiz? Sure. Just not the triangle, okay? That's today's stuff. But that, hey, we've done this already. That's just finding the angle given the ratio, okay? One more time. When you don't know the angle, what button are you pushing on your calculator, Mila? Second function, or inverse function. Some of yours might even say that, okay? When you don't know the angle, you're putting that in. Let's go back a bit. When you do know the angle, well, then you just put it in, right? Sine of 46, or 46 sine on your calculator. When you don't know, you press the second function. Okay? That's it for quiz review. Here's a triangle. Okay? How do I solve this? What am I given? Label the triangle. There's hypotenuse. This is opposite. That's adjacent. I want a ratio that has O and H. Which ratio has O and H? Okay, does everybody have this memorized now? Is there a law that says you're not allowed to write that on the top of your quiz? Oh, I didn't tell you that law? No, of course not. Yeah, write it down, guys, right? It's not a secret. It's not like you don't get bonus marks for not writing it. Okay, do it. Sine. The sine of angle A equals 4 over 6. That's the ratio of the two sides. Okay? Put that in your calculator. Inverse function, and we should get to the nearest degree, 42. Okay? B. Hey, that's not fair. He hasn't given me a triangle with the right angle up in the top right like that. I haven't seen one like that before. That's not fair. Who cares? Opposite the right angle is hypotenuse. Opposite the angle, that's the opposite side. So this one is the adjacent. What ratio would I like to use, Colton? Cosine. Because that's the one with A and H. Okay, that's what I'm given. The cosine of B equals A over H. Inverse cosine, because I don't know the angle, of 10 divided by 19 is 58 degrees. Don't forget the degrees. That's the unit. It's not right if you just write 58. It's not 58 meters. Okay?
Well, that's what we're doing today.
What?
That's what we're doing today.
That's what I'm doing right now. Yes. No. Yesterday, what was the difference? We found a side. Today we're finding in the angle. I know, it's all triangles, isn't it? Same stuff. Okay? It's all trigonometry. It's only 3 ratios. Okay. This one has all 3 sides. I'm going to panic. I don't know what ratio to use. Which one could I use? Alicia? Any. Which is your favorite? Calvin? Like sine? Or do you like cosine? Do you like tangent? Or do you not discriminate? You're discriminating. Don't discriminate. He likes tangent. First, label your triangle. That's the hypotenuse. For this angle, that's the opposite. That's the adjacent. Mr. Discriminator likes O and A. He wants to use tangent. Good call, because I just did the other two. Okay, so the tangent of C is O over A, or 21 over 20. Okay, exact same procedure. 21 divided by 20 gives me 46 degrees to the nearest degree. Okay? Well, I could do these all day. Here's some terminology you guys need to know. Angle of elevation and angle of depression, because you're not always going to get the nice triangle picture. You're going to have to make it. What's the difference? If I look straight ahead, okay, horizontally, and lift my eyes up, that's angle of elevation. Does that make sense? When you guys lie on your back in PE and you elevate your legs, everybody loves to do this, right? And then hold it for about 27 minutes, right? And everyone's starting to shake and, and their back's kind of hunching up and stuff. Isn't that fun? You love doing that? Okay, that's elevation from the horizontal up. Depression is of course the opposite. Okay, so elevation, when you look horizontal, if this is your eye here, okay, and we have nice big thick lashes, you look horizontally, up is angle of elevation. So the other way, if I look horizontally and then down, that's angle of depression. Another way to kind of remember that, if you're depressed, what do you look like when you're walking down the street? Right? Okay? That's another way to maybe hopefully remember it. Okay? So when you look horizontally straight across, down, this is the angle, not 0 degrees, whatever it is, x degrees. That's the angle of depression. Okay? We got it? Got to stick it in your noodle. Got to remember. Now, this happens to be the same angle as that. It's actually, I don't know if you've seen this before, but in Math 11 we teach this. If I have 2 parallel lines, and I denote that by putting this funny little arrow in each one, this is called a transversal, and geometrically this is the same angle as that one. You have to make sure, if this is the triangle I want, I have to know the angles inside the triangle. If they give you this angle here, that doesn't help us. It's outside of my triangle, right? I have to know, hey, that's the same angle as this one down here. Let's look at an example. There's a tree. It's this tall. Okay? It casts a shadow 7.5 meters long. And it's kind of helping us out. It's drawing the shadow for us. So if that's Mr. Sun up there, okay, all of this is shadow. If I'm standing over here, I'm happy because I'm in the sun. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so that when it says cast a shadow 7.5 meters long, that's what they mean. Okay? All this will be in the shade. Calculate the angle of elevation of the sun to the nearest tenth of a degree. What's angle of elevation? If you look horizontal and up, do we see where that angle is in here? That's right here. Okay, that's the angle of elevation of the sun. I don't care if you're a tree, or a man standing here, or maybe you're a building that's really, really, really high. This is all the same angle. It's not just the angle for the tree, right? It's the angle for anything. That's the angle of elevation in the sun. That's why they used to have sundials that actually worked, right? Okay? So, I got my picture. What do I know for this angle? Label the triangle. Trees normally grow straight up and down, don't they? That's what they like to do, because they want to reach towards the sun, and on average, the sun goes across like this. On average, it's going to be straight up there. Like, it doesn't do like a flower and bend this way and then twist around and bend that way to face the sun all day long, right? Have you seen those time-lapse photographs of flowers? They do that. Yeah, they all do that, right? They face towards the sun as it's moving across the sky. Tree isn't that flexible, okay? It's like an old man. You can't do that. All right. That's the hypotenuse. For this angle, that's the opposite. That's the adjacent. Which one has O and A in it? Tangent. Someone's getting pretty quick with this stuff. We're getting pretty good. The tangent of, I don't care what letter you call it, pick your favorite letter, is 5.1 over 7.5. Okay, I've done this about 9 times. I'm not going to do it again. But read the question. This one says the tenth of a degree. Inverse function of this, I get 34.2 degrees. That's the angle of elevation. Okay? Any questions on that? All right. No picture at all. This is literacy. This is a word problem. A boat. You guys all know what a boat is? I'm being serious. I was once explained a question by Mrs. Wignall, who used to be here up until this year. And there was a math question that said a sand dune, and there was a kid in there who didn't have a clue what a sand dune was. And if you don't know what that is, how are you supposed to draw the picture and solve the problem? Okay? Sand dunes make like a cone shape, don't they? Okay? If you don't know that, if you've never heard of the word sand dune, you're lost. You get 0. Okay? So, you know, this is literacy. The more you read, the better you understand this stuff. It's 130 meters from the base of a cliff. You know what a cliff is? Okay, let's draw one. Here's a cliff. Are we going to assume something about this boat? Like, it's in the water? Good assumption. There's my water. Okay? It's like the cliffs of Dover. It's 130 meters from the base of the cliff. That's the base of the cliff. Here's my boat. That's 130. Are we good so far? Does it make sense? Is it wrong to put your cliff over here and your boat this way? No, that's fine too. Do you want to draw it upside down and backwards? Doesn't really make any sense, because then the water would be up in the top. But you know what? It might still work, okay? That's just the way I drew it. If you like to see it the other way around, that's fine. What else do I know? I can't just solve this with one number, right? I got to know 2 pieces of the puzzle. The cliff is 80 meters high. There it is. Okay? Everybody's happy with that? I skip my units, okay? I always know at the end when I'm done my question and I get my answer, I go back and look, units. Because sometimes people, when they're messy, it's just harder to read, okay? So I'm not being lazy, I know it's in meters, okay? My answer's got to be in meters. But I don't want to put this in every equation all the time. It just messes it up and people make a mistake. Sometimes their M looks like 2 zeros and now they don't have 80 meters. They use 8,000, okay? There's my diagram. Now, mark the angle of depression of the boat from the top of the cliff. Which way's angle of depression? Is that this or is it this? A or B? B. So someone's at the top of the cliff looking down on the boat. That's the angle of depression. Okay? Here he is here. He's looking down to the boat. That's supposed to be a straight line. Now do we have a triangle? Okay. Now here's the tricky part. Where do I want to mark this angle? Here or here? A or B? We got some A's, we got some B's. Take 5 seconds. Okay, who likes A? Hand up. Oh, come on. Who likes B? Hands up. And the rest of you, that's called abstain from the voting. We're not sure. Okay, remember it's from the horizontal down. It's this angle. That is B. It's not A. Okay? What? Let's go back and look. This is angle of depression. It's from the horizontal down. That's the angle there. Okay? From the horizontal. It is B. Okay? That's the angle of depression here. If I look straight across from the top of the cliff horizontally, that's the angle of depression to the boat. Okay? Part B. That was just drawing the picture, part A. On a test, you're not going to have part A and part B. It's just going to say, solve this angle. Okay? We're being nice to you. We're saying draw the picture first, which you should always do. Second, what are we trying to find? The angle of depression. I want to know what B is. So angle B is what? Well, like I mentioned earlier, this isn't even in a triangle, is it? But what's the same angle as this one? Okay, here's two parallel lines. There's a transversal. This is the same angle as that one. Okay? So this angle I can solve. That's inside my triangle. There's the right angle. We're assuming the cliff is vertical. Otherwise, how do we do the question, right? Okay? So this is just something you have to stick in your head. If you knew that, great. And if you don't, well, you need to know it now. If you want the mark. Or 2. Okay? So, how do I get this angle? Well, for this triangle, that's the hypotenuse. For this angle, that's the opposite. So this must be the adjacent. I'm given opposite and adjacent. Which ratio has O and A? Tangent. So the tangent of B is opposite over adjacent. And again, last time, second function, tangent of 80 divided by 130 is 31.60750. How do they want the answer? To the nearest degree is, what was it? 32. Okay? That's the angle from the boat to the cliff. It's also the angle of depression from the cliff to the boat. This is the same angle as this one. Okay? 1 to 3, 5 to 7, 9 to 14. This one I would do if we weren't having a quiz, so I think I'll try to remember that. Remind me to do this on Monday, okay? But we should be fine without it.